Hello again. Today's gospel is all about a journey and a surprise co traveler. And this made me think about a family journey of over 30 years ago. We were returning from a short holiday in our old Hillman Husky, which was older than I, with our 4 children, and I was one more soon to be born. I was 7 months pregnant. And suddenly, as we were rounding a bend on a hilly section, our brakes failed and we crashed straight into the back of a huge tanker. We actually went under it. The windscreen shattered in our faces. There were no airbags in that old car. So all of us piled out and surveyed ourselves. I just had one small scratch. Otherwise, everyone was unharmed. And the truckers got out too. The children and I sat on the shady side of the road and ate berries. They were all hungry. While my husband and the truckers jacked up the tanker, pulled out the car, fixed the brake. There was no shouting or blaming or anger. The truckers were so good they took us up in their cabin till the end of the hilly section, and then we slowly drove home and reached home safely in our now badly battered car. That night my husband shared with me what the men had said to him. They said, "Saab, just today our spare wheel was not in its usual place at the back of the tanker. If it had been, both your faces would have been smashed. God must have been with you." And then we remembered, before setting out, one of our friends suggested praying Psalm 23, which we did. One line stood out. "Though I walk through the valley of death, no evil will I fear. You are there." The men were right. Our good shepherd was with us all along. All of us are on a journey, the journey of life. And at times we may feel that things are going wrong. God seems to be absent or out of control. The world seems to be in chaos, and we don't know how to make sense of it. Deep down, we wonder, is God really there? Is he alive? And this is what 2 men, friends of Jesus, were feeling. Their hearts were heavy as they remembered the terrible scene of their master being whipped and crucified. And they decided to leave the rest and go off on their own. Some people call them the ex-disciples. And as they walked along, they talked and talked, but just couldn't understand why all these things had happened. Let's read this story and let's see if it helps us on our journey of life. A reading from the Gospel of St. Luke. Now on that same day, 2 of the disciples were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. While they were talking and debating, Jesus himself came near and went with them. But their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. And the 2 disciples were talking and debating. Can you imagine what they may have been saying to each other? Maybe, why did the master allow himself to be killed? He was powerless. But then don't you remember how he brought Lazarus to life, healed the blind? Yeah, but then what's the use? He couldn't save himself. Maybe these kind of thoughts sometimes come to us. God has got no power. He can't do anything. Look what's happening in the world. Look what's happening in my life. Now, why did the friends remain sad even though Jesus had joined them? Because they didn't recognize him. Sounds like us? Very often we don't realize that Jesus is right there beside us. even talking to us. Let's continue. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these days?" He asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel." Jesus knew very well what had happened. Why do you think he asked them what things? Maybe he wanted to give them a chance to share what they were feeling. And Jesus wants us also to share our feelings, and he patiently listens. It's not that he doesn't know what's going on, but he wants to have a dialogue. He wants us to express our feelings to him. He wants us to treat him like a friend. What was the hope that the two men had before Jesus died? They said that he would fight and save them from the Romans. And was Jesus going to do that? No, he had a different plan. He was going to save the whole world from the worst enemy, from Satan and sin and death. Maybe we too forget the main plan of God, and we just think of what's happening now and forget that we're on our journey and there is a destination ahead. Let's continue. After listening to them, Jesus spoke. Then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into his glory?" Then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. So what did Jesus scold them for? For being foolish and slow to believe the scriptures. What did he say was necessary, had to happen? That Jesus had to suffer first. The Messiah had to suffer and then be glorified. Perhaps we too find it difficult to believe that suffering can be used by God and that suffering is part of our lives. As they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. Jesus walked ahead as if he was going on. Why do you think he acted like this? Maybe he was waiting for an invitation. And that's something that Jesus does with us. He never forces himself into our lives. If we want more of him, we have to invite him. He waits for this. Let's read the last part. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?" That same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. The word of the Lord. One last question. What change do you see in the disciples now compared to when they started out? They went back, their direction of their journey changed. That same time, that means it was still evening, and they started going back to the other disciples. They had new hope and joy because now they knew that God was alive, Jesus was alive. And they shared the good news. They became witnesses. Let's now think about ourselves. What have we learned from this gospel about Jesus and us? What do you think he's trying to say to us? Jesus is saying, my friends, I am not dead. I am not absent. I come to meet you where you are. Even if you're running away from me, I come. I walk with you on your life's journey, though you often do not recognize me. I want you to tell me everything. Your feelings, your hopes, your disappointments. I'm listening. And if you let me, and if you listen to me, I will open the scriptures to you so that your hearts will burn within you. I will open your minds to understand my ways. They are so different from your way of thinking. I had to suffer so that you could be free. And I can use your suffering too. Trust me. If you really want me, if you invite me deeper into your life, I will come. I will open your eyes to recognize me. And I will give you a new direction in your life. I will lead you to fellowship with your brothers and sisters. You can support each other, and I will make you my witnesses. What do you have to say in reply to Jesus? If you're in a group, share a time when you experience God walking and talking with you. Maybe He corrected you. Maybe He helped you. So bye from Family Faith Time. Remember, Jesus is alive.